Hello, welcome back to 3D drawing for mod rowing. Today's lesson I'm going to try and look at adding some detail onto the buffer beams on either end. It's going to be quite difficult to actually do because a lot of the photos that show the buffer beam aren't particularly clear. So some of the details we're just going to have to do sort of best representations of what we can see. If I show you some of the pictures, you can see that there's something here at the bottom. It looks like some sort of clamp or something. It's also visible in here. It looks like this clamp shape at the bottom, something circular, little pipe, and then it's got like a little ring or something up here that holds it to the buffer beam. So there's things like that we can look at. You can also see on this one that clearly there's a couple of areas here that you can put the lamp irons on, and they're probably similar on the other end. Looking on the other end, these are still on the other end, but they sort of hang down below the buffer beam. The issue that we're going to have, or I think it might become an issue, is what we're going to do about couplings, especially if we start adding details. We're going to add it, and then we might have to think about potentially removing them in the future if they're going to get in the way of whatever we do with couplings, which is something that will need a bit of thought, because obviously 3D printed couplings, especially on something like this, because there's no lateral play, it's going to struggle to go around corners. So it might be that we look best to have some sort of wire or hoop or something like that, something like a wire coming out of one of them and then a D-shaped hoop, a bit like a tension lock type thing. But it's something that at the moment is going to have a bit of thought on, and I'll pick that up in future episodes. If anyone does have any suggestions that they'd like to think about for couplings, then I'm more than happy to listen and discuss them. It will create quite an interesting talking point, I think, because I don't think any ends are going to work, because on the other end there's literally no room for any sort of pocket or anything like that. If you look at the pictures that we've got of the bogey here on the end, there's literally, it looks like a square with the wheels inserted. There's a plate on each end of the bogey, so there is literally zero room here for any NEMs or anything like that. So yeah, that it's going to be interesting. So yeah, if you've got a comment or suggestion, please leave them below, and we can move forward from there. Okay, so jumping into Fusion, let's make sure we've got the chassis turned on here. Okay, we'll jump down to the bottom here. So looking at the pictures, the location of them is slightly to the right of the buffers, and obviously they start below them. So we'll start by looking on this surface here. Now when I draw them, I'm going to want them to be connected to this surface so that they print. So I think I'm going to start by drawing this circular piece here. So I'll be creating an offset plane from the base looking upwards. And looking at the picture, looks like it's about 6 mil up, so 6 inches up. So I'm going to go about 1.3 millimeters up, I think. Okay, then we can create a sketch on that surface, and then I'm just going to be using a circle. It's going to be off to the side of the buffer here, and I think we're going to go back here, I think. Okay, so let's go for a 1 mil diameter circle, and define its position. Mil. So look at the picture, it's not particularly thick, so I'm just going to drag that upwards, maybe half a mil to join. Okay, so these clamp-like shapes, I'm going to do an offset plane coming forwards from this face here, and I want that plane to intersect the middle of the circle here, so it's 0.4 millimeters, and then I can draw on that surface. Okay, so let's have a look at the shape. So yeah, so it's like a little bit of a circle, hole in the middle, and then a cut out at the bottom. So easiest thing there is if we take a circle, let's do a construction line actually. So if we come across, we're going to want a construction line going upwards. Like that. Just want it to be turned to construction. Define the distance from there to there. The other way. Delete that. From there to there. It's 2.9. So now we know we've got the centre point of that circle. Okay, so we can now snap a circle to that line there. Are they clamps bigger than? Yes, they are slightly, so we need to be bigger. I'm going to go for 1.2 mil. I didn't want that to be construction. Turn that back off. That's it. And define its position. I'm going to bring that down slightly. Maybe a bit more than that. Okay, and just for neatness, we'll define its position. But let's try again. So that circle to that point there, 2.9. Define the radius. Okay, then we'll put another circle on the inside of this. Let's give it a clamp shape. I think I'm going to go for 0.7. Okay, and then just going to do a little rectangular shape. Let's use a centre point rectangle actually. If we line up there, it's going to snap there, and come down, and across that I'll open those up. And all this rectangle for is so that we can select that as a profile, and we've got the open jaws type shape. If we extrude this, I'm going to extrude it symmetrically, I think. I want that to jump into this back plate here. I want it to join. Okay, does that look right? No, it's quite thin. That's probably not going to work. So if I go change that from symmetrically to two sides, let's bring this one in. I want it touching the back so it's got some support, so when it prints cleanly. Yeah, I think we'll go with that shape. If you wanted it to just be sort of hanging, don't extrude this to the surface here, but I think in Engage you're not going to see it, and I think the supports are going to be much better doing that than they would be trying to catch the floating parts. Okay, so the next thing we'll do is draw up. There's a tube that comes up from here, so again we just use a circle in the middle there, and we'll go up 0.4 millimeters, so it's got a little bit of meat on it. Extrude this upwards. joining. That means some of these haven't joined. No, they're all fine. Okay, so height of this bit is still below the buffer. So let's have a look where that brings us. Yeah, it might be too long. Bring it down a little bit. Yeah, we'll go with that 1.4. And then it's got like another circle on the top facing the other direction, and then a loop. Okay, so for that we draw an offset plane from this one, and if we come 2.9 millimeters, that'll put us in the center here, and then we can draw on that plane. And again, it's got like a circle type shape. I want to find the center point of that in a second. I'm going to go for 0.6. To find the distance, which we had earlier, is 0.4, so that's now lined up in the center. To find its height, 0.3. And then extrude this. This one we're definitely going to do symmetrical. And we're going to tell it to join like that. So now I've got an opposite circle on top there. And then it's got like a ring that goes back into the body here. Okay, so to make sure that we get the loop going through there, we do axis through center points, and then we can do a plane at an angle from that center point. We'll go for that there, and then we can draw a loop shape off of that. Pipe that. And 0.4 is probably a bit too big there. Let's bring that down. Okay, now we can see we need to move this slightly because that's not sitting with the bottom bit on that center point, so we're going to move it ever so slightly. Come back into the sketch. Okay, let's grab that and drag it up slightly so that the bottom bit is sitting on that red line there, which we know is halfway through that center point there. There we go. And you can see it's also cut into the back here, which is great because that means it's now also supported at the top here as well. So this prints, it's going to be supported at the bottom and coming up through the top. Yeah, I'm going to be happy with that. I know it's not perfect, I know it's not exactly how it looks to the photos because we've got this being a bit thicker, but I'm looking for the reliability on the print here as well more than anything else. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to draw is on the other end. I'm going to draw the lamp irons here. So if we jump back into Fusion, I'm going to flip this round to the other end. So we can see that the lamp irons sit above the buffers. So we're going to do an offset plane. I'm going to bring them in so they're about halfway, 2/3 of the way across the buffer, and then draw that shape on an offset plane. So construct an offset plane from that base. As I said, bring that. Oh, actually cancel. that offset plane would be an angle. We don't want that. We'll do an offset plane from that, which we know is level. I think I'm going to go for that there. And construct on that plane there. Okay, so it's a bit of a weird shape for lamp irons. So have a line, come out. I'm going to do a thickness of 0.3, and then I'm going to coincidence that to the back plate here. I'm going to come up 0.4. Diagonal 0.4 with an angle defined as, let's go for 140. And I'm going to bring this up. If we look at the picture, it's pretty much level with the top surface here, so I'm going to go and constrain that horizontally vertically to that point there and find that height from there to there. There we go. That's 1.3. Okay, and I'm going to come back in here. I'm going to do a thickness of 0.3 and then match down like this, and then that will be all constrained. An angle drawn on there. Nope, that's already in. That'll be wanting that constrained. There we go, and then we can extrude this. We might want the bottom bit to be a bit shorter actually. And it's also pretty much on top of the buff, so it does need to come down. Okay, so let's go back into that sketch. Okay, and I want to increase this. I'm going to go for 1.6. Yeah, and I'm also going to drop this down 0.3. Same here, 0.3. And then I've got that taller bit at the top, shallow at the bottom. Yeah, that's what I'm looking for. Okay, and yeah, it's not perfect, but it's going to do. And then engage, as I say, you're not going to notice it. So there is one on the upper end, that's the same end. And these ones are lower, but also inside the buffers themselves, so further inboard. Okay, looking at the lamp irons on the other side, they're slightly further inboard and slightly lower. So when you use the same sketch, copy across on the plane and have a plane in a slightly different position. So if we come around to the other end, okay, I think the lamp irons are going to be sort of above. Yeah, it's probably above where we've already drawn, so we can use one of these planes that we've already got here. Turn the right on, find a plane that's in line. So we use probably plane 9. So if we press sketch on to plane 9, we know that's already there. Okay, and then if we go back into, finish our sketch, go back into the other one, that open, come over here, and then we can just drag across all that geometry that we've got there. copy it. Finish that sketch. We should then be able to come into that sketch and paste it on the geometry here. See how it's already quite handily turned upside down for us. Okay, so we'll do drag that border over. Okay, rotate it through 180. Let's see, we've got relative height rise. So it's going to be slightly down from the top. It needs to be a bit higher still, I think. Looks higher than the buffers. Sort that position. Probably need to constrain that point to that line there. There you go. Then we can extrude this. Do symmetrical. I think 0.2 join. Okay. So we've now got that lamp line on that side as well. Okay, I think we've got to the point here with the chassis at the moment where we're pretty much done until we mirror it over. So I'm going to do that now, and then we'll call that the end of the lesson. So just mirror bodies. There's only one body in here, which is fine, which is the underframe, and then we'll use the mirror being the inside surface here. And it's already joined, click on OK. Okay, so I think I'm going to call that the end of the lesson there today. It's about 25 minutes or so. So today's lesson, we've done the lamp lines on both ends and what these look like, some sort of clamps on this end. I'm not going to put them on the other end because I think they're going to hang down too much and interfere with any coupling or anything we've got down on this end. Okay, so hope you enjoyed today's lesson. If you have, please press the like button, please subscribe and hit the bell notifications to be notified every time I upload a new video.